pedestals there. Everyone.
Hello, BlizzCon. It is awesome to be back here with you guys. My name is Alan Dabiri. I am the game director for Heroes of the Storm. Hello. I am joined up here by Travis McGathy.
Hi, everyone.
This actually works. There we go. I'm joined up here by Travis McGathy, lead game designer, and Matthew Cooper, lead live designer. So thank you for joining us for the What's Next panel for Heroes of the Storm. In this panel, we're going to dive into some really cool stuff coming to the game post-BlizzCon. So Travis is going to talk about some cool system and feature work that's coming, and then Matt's going to come up here and dive into some cool gameplay changes that we have coming shortly as well. And for those of you here at BlizzCon with us, a lot of what these guys are going to be talking about is they're actually available on the show floor, playable on our demo stations. So if you haven't done it already, be sure to check them out. First off, though, I wanted to take a quick look back at 2017 and all the things that have actually come to the game. So this year has been an incredible year for Heroes of the Storm. We've just had a ton of awesome releases with great content and updates. The biggest one, of course, was our Heroes 2.0 release that came out earlier this year. This release brought our first major Overwatch theme drop, a ton of awesome new content, and some great changes to our out-of-game progression and reward systems. And the end result of this release was really the single biggest moment in Heroes history. We had our highest player engagement numbers of all time, and that actually includes the original launch of the game. So it's just been an awesome, awesome release for us. And since that time, we've been riding that wave with more releases and more content and more updates. So kind of wanted to take a quick look back here. Speaking of that content, we released 2 new battlegrounds this year. The first came with Heroes 2.0 was Hanamura. Hanamura brought this beautifully unique environment to the game. It also brought some new and unique gameplay changes. And so, the biggest being payloads, of course. In Heroes of the Storm, we're always trying to push ourselves. We're always trying out new things. We want to experiment. We want new things for the game, the genre, and ourselves. And so, in the case of Hanamura, some of those ideas didn't work out exactly how we wanted. And thanks to the awesome feedback from you guys, we actually took Hanamura back in the shop, and we're working on it. We're actually going to bring it back in the future, bigger and better. So, the second battleground was Volskaya Foundry. This was our second Overwatch battleground, and while we've had player-controlled vehicles on other maps, this was our first opportunity to bring a 2-player vehicle to the game. So, for those of you who are Cho'Gall fans, you can get some of that 2-player action regardless what heroes you're playing. And then also, because we're insane, we threw conveyor belts all over the capture points just for some ridiculous team fights as well. But we're also loving that battleground too. So with the addition of these 2 battlegrounds, we'll actually be ending 2017 with 14 battlegrounds that we've released for this game. That is double the 7 that we originally launched with. So a lot of cool battlegrounds in the game now. Beyond the battlegrounds, we've also added a crazy number of new heroes this year. 15 new heroes to be exact. And if we just kind of take a quick look back here, we brought Zul'Jin, Valera, Lucio, Probius, who you might have seen kind of roaming around the show floor here, Cassia, Genji, everyone's favorite highly mobile cyber ninja, I'm sure, unless you're a backline squishy, maybe not so favorite, but we have Diva, Malthael, who I love, Stukov, a really cool StarCraft support, unique healing mechanic and some cool heroics, Garrosh, Kel'Thuzad, our most requested hero ever. And more recently, we brought Ana to the game and Junkrat. And as you guys have seen this morning, we just announced that before the end of the year, we'll be bringing Alexstrasza and Hanzo to the game. So that's a lot of heroes. In fact, by the time we ship Hanzo, we will have 75 heroes in this game. That is more than double the 30 that we originally launched with. So a lot of awesome new heroes coming as well. And beyond the new heroes, we also went back and reworked a bunch of existing heroes. In fact, we did 16 hero reworks this year so far. And here's a quick class photo of these ones. So we're always improving and refining our hero design sensibilities. And so these hero reworks are an opportunity for us to go back, look at a hero, modernize them, energize them, also look at talent diversity and balance issues as well. But we really enjoy going back and looking at these heroes because there's heroes that we can kind of bring back into the meta by doing this. And this doesn't include, these 16 hero reworks actually don't include all of the balance updates we're doing as well. In fact, we touched 59 different heroes this year with balance updates. These are just number tweaks, things to make the game fun, fair, and balanced. So a lot of changes across this year, and all of it has been done in collaboration with you guys. Your feedback that we get is invaluable towards developing this game, so I really want to thank you guys. So give yourselves all a round of applause for all your fantastic feedback. Okay, so that's a lot of cool stuff. I didn't even go into all the system work and other UI changes and cool updates we've done. But looking back at all this content, it's also kind of helped us think about how we want to release stuff going forward. In this year, in 2017, we had some pretty crazy releases where we would drop a ton on the game at the same time. You know, a typical release that we might have had might have been like a brand new hero. We might have done several reworks, 4 reworks in the case of Kel'Thuzad. You know, we might have a bunch of balance updates that come along with it, an event with, you know, a whole bunch of awesome new skins, and then sometimes we might even throw a new battleground into the mix. So on the one hand, this can be really exciting because a bunch of cool stuff is coming to the game all at once, but we've also seen a couple issues with this approach. First off, we feel like not all of the content we release has a moment to shine. So hero reworks, battlegrounds, other updates are often overshadowed by a brand new hero. Secondly, we also feel that by dropping a ton of gameplay changes at the same time, we've seen that we can create some instability in the meta as well. And of course, this can cause some disruption for the game. So what you're going to see us start doing going forward is actually start to spread this content out a little more so that each thing kind of has its room to shine. So as an example, we might actually release a brand new hero. Shortly thereafter, we might actually have a major hero rework on its own. And since it's on its own, we can actually support it better. We might do additional artwork for it. We might put some new effects, sound, maybe even do a new spotlight video that highlights all the changes that are coming with this hero rework. After that, we might have a cool event with a bunch of cool skins coming out, a new battleground, followed by another brand new hero. So really, it's a lot of awesome content coming at a steady pace that's healthy for the game. So with that, now I want to dive into the stuff that you really care about, which is all the cool stuff coming in the future here. So I'm going to hand it off to Travis to talk about some more fun stuff.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to see everybody here. Thank you for coming out. I'm Travis, the lead game designer for Heroes of the Storm. As Alan mentioned, I'm going to run you through some of the new features coming your way over the next few months. Before getting into that, though, I've got some interesting statistics I wanted to show coming out of the Heroes 2.0 launch that I thought people might find entertaining, kind of informative. So with Heroes 2.0, we added the ability for players to craft items. Not only is that a cool feature to have, it's given us some great insight into the type of items players really enjoy. So I brought some of that here for you. There's 2 different ways to look at this data. In first one I've got here is the top 5 items in terms of just the sheer raw number of items created. So the #1 most created item since Heroes 2.0 was the Diva Announcer. Yeah, everybody loved that Diva Announcer. #2 is the Neon Dragon Genji skin. #3 was the Crimson Lionheart Varian skin. #4 is that Midnight Arcanist Jaina skin. And the 5th one is the Steel Dragon Genji skin. Now, this doesn't account for the value of the items, so it tends to skew a little bit towards the lower cost items. If you look at the same stats, but you're factoring in the shard cost and look at it by the sheer number of shards spent on items, things change up a little bit. #1 item is still that Diva Announcer. Everybody loves Diva. #2, though, that Primeval Diablo skin. That thing was fantastic. #3 is the Happy Cloud Mount. Personal favorite of mine. And then speaking to how popular our announcers have been, the 4th is the Abathur Announcer, and then Brightwing Announcer for #5. So again, just some fun stats I wanted to share. I thought this stuff was great. I hope you like it too. Now let's get into some of the new things coming your way. So first up, we're bringing a target info panel to the game. So this is going to allow you to select battlefield entities such as minions, mercenaries, structures, other heroes, and just get more information about them, some more statistics. So you can see things like their health and mana, their regen rates, their attack damage, their attack speed, their attack range, their armor, including breakdowns for physical and spell armor, as well as their spell power and movement speed. It's all really cool information, but be careful about studying it too much in a team fight, or your own stats are probably going to suffer. Next up, heroes in hiding. We're adding UI indicators for which heroes are inside of other things, vehicles, objects, abilities, that kind of thing. Nice little quality of life improvement. I got some examples for you here. So here we've got, you can see it here above the Dragon Knight's head, Nubrak inside of the Dragon Knight. Another example, Rhaegar in a cocoon. Here we have Azmodan being gorged by stitches, which shouldn't really be physically possible, but there it is. And then a couple heroes stuck in a maw. Again, these are just some nice quality of life improvements. Both of these are currently in development. We're expecting them to come to the live servers over the next few months. Let's get on to something a little bit bigger. Voice chat. We're going to be, yeah, I'm excited about this one too. We're going to be integrating Blizzard Voice directly into the game client. So I'm sure as many of you recognize, effective communication can often be the difference between winning or losing a game of Heroes. And many players already use their own voice chat solutions to help with that, including Blizzard Voice. We want to make it as easy as possible for everybody to do this. So we're going to add 2 different voice chat channels to the game, one for your party and one for your team. When you join a party, you'll be automatically added to that party's voice chat channel. The team, though, is opt-in rather than opt-out. So when you join a game, you'll be given the option of joining that channel, but you're not just put into it by default. And then these defaults you can change from the options menu if you want to switch things up a little bit. Now, in-game, we're adding indicators in the upper right corner of who's speaking. So when somebody's using voice chat, you can tell who's trying to communicate with you. You can see that up there. And then all of the controls are available from the tab screen. Here's where you can adjust somebody's volume, mute them, and switch between party and team chat if you happen to be in both at the same time. Now, we've been playing with this internally for a little while now, and it's been fantastic just to have it for that ease of use. And this is actually available on the show floor right now, so you can check it out. And again, this will be coming to live servers over the next few months as we wrap up development on it. Oh yeah, you can see the highlight here. OK, getting on to the big one. This is the item I'm most excited to talk about, performance-based matchmaking. So yeah, I love this. I love this so much. So we're improving the matchmaker system. We're improving its accuracy in placing individual players by allowing it to take into account an individual player's performance in a match when doing MMR adjustments. Now, to kind of explain how this works, I need to first take a step back and kind of explain how the existing system does its thing. So at its core, the matchmaker is just trying to put players of similar skill together in games so that everybody has the best gameplay experience. To do that, every player is given a matchmaking rating, sometimes just referred to as MMR, which is just an indication of what the system thinks the player's skill is. The matchmaker then uses that when putting people together in matches, so the more accurate that MMR is as a reflection of their skill, the better the end results will be. Now, the team-based nature of Heroes of the Storm can make it challenging to figure out what a player's contribution is in an individual game, since there's only one part of the 5-man team that was in the match. Heroes uses a fairly standard approach to this just based on wins and losses. When you win a game, your MMR goes up. When you lose, it goes down. There's a bunch of other factors that come into play, including things like the skill of the opposing team. But that's the basic gist of it. Now, the system works since all other things being equal, if a player is performing beyond the expectations of their current MMR, they're going to win more games than they lose over the long run. And their MMR is going to go up to the point where it's an actual indication of their skill. But unless that difference is pretty substantial, it can take a large number of games before that happens. So we've been working on ways to improve that. Now, over the last year or so, we've added a lot of data hooks to the game that can get at an individual's performance in the game. You've seen pieces of it being used for things like the MVP system, the personalized stats that show up at the end of a match, and the update to the on-fire system. Now, behind the scenes, the new matchmaker is using these type of stats and many more to look at how the individual is performing. And then it can use that to help calculate MMR adjustments. Now, it's slicing all these stats up by the hero that's being played, the battleground you're on, and even the region you're playing in, so it can make fair comparisons with other players. And then, by looking at this across the entire breadth of the entire player base, the system can get a good understanding of what differentiates a highly skilled player from an average player. And it's not always what you think. I've got a couple examples here I want to show you. The first one of these is just a baseline. It's kind of Illidan. So Illidan works like you expect in this system. A good Illidan player does a lot of damage. He soaks a lot of experience. Doesn't die very often. And it takes a lot of mercenary camps. Now, Illidan has a relatively high skill cap. So in these statistics, the difference between a highly skilled Illidan and an average one is substantial. Now, a different example, though, is Kerrigan. Those same stats, damage, experience soaking, and deaths, a highly skilled Kerrigan really isn't that different from a more average Kerrigan. Instead, when it comes to Kerrigan, what really sets her apart is their effectiveness with her crowd control. Now, Kerrigan is still being measured on all the same stats as Illidan. They're just weighted differently to reflect how important they are for Kerrigan. Now, again, these are just a couple of simple examples for the system. But the point is that the matchmaker can use all this information, all this knowledge it has, and then it can look at how an individual performed, and it can measure that and use that to adjust their MMR at the end of a match. So you're still only going to gain MMR on a win and losing on a loss. But if you're performing as an individual beyond the expectations for your current skill level, you're going to gain more MMR on a win, lose less on a loss, and you'll much more quickly arrive at an MMR that's an actual indication of your skill. And the opposite is true if you're underperforming. One of the other cool things about this system is it's fully dynamic. So it's continually updating its system as hero balance changes, as the meta shifts, as players find creative new ways to use heroes. The system is updating to take that into account. Now, we've actually been running this on the live servers for a little while now in parallel with the existing matchmaker. The matchmaker hasn't been using these ratings, but it's running there and measuring things so we can see how it works. The data that comes out of this is really technical, and it would be hard to show off in a venue like this. But we did find an example that kind of differentiates and shows the differences in the system. That's what I have here. We don't condone this behavior, but when a highly skilled player takes control of another player's account, it was a great example for the system. It was a good way for it to kind of look in and do things. And that's what this graph is showing. This was a Bronze 5 account that a Master tier player took control of and ran it all the way back up to Master. This graph is showing their MMR in the old system, which is the dashed lines, and then their MMR in the new system, the solid lines, if we had been applying performance-based metrics to that. Now, in the case we're measuring here, the player took control of this account around game 40. Again, they played this all the way back up to Master tier, and the graph stops at that point, at game 251. Now, if we've been applying performance metrics to this and adjusting their MMR based on how well they're doing in those games, the player actually would have crossed over to the Master tier at game 131, or twice as fast as they did before. So this is a significant improvement. This is without the system even being fully implemented. The matchmaker was still doing matches based on the old MMR system. Once this thing is fully turned on, we expect that to be even more accelerated. So some of you are also probably recognizing that this system can do a lot to help with the problems with smurfing. Since if a player is creating an account specifically to stomp on lower skill players, they're going to much more rapidly be facing players of their same skill. We've also found that this can be really good for detecting griefing, since the system can pick up when players are playing abnormally poorly for their rating. We actually already used it to confirm reports of players intentionally feeding, for example, to help take action on those accounts. And we want to automate this in the future so that we can much more quickly take those actions. Yeah. There's a lot of potential here. Which leads me to the big question I'm sure everybody's asking, which is when can we actually get this thing? Because it's pretty cool. And I got good news on that front. We're looking to roll it out at the start of the next ranked season in mid-December. So yeah, it's coming soon. Now, I've been talking about this for a while, so let me kind of just tie a bow around this and recap what this is here. Performance-based matchmaking is allowing the matchmaker to take into account the individual performance of the player when doing MMR adjustments, which allow you to get your matchmaking rating to what is actually accurate for you at a much faster pace, which can allow us to make better games overall, and the whole thing is coming your way at the start of the next ranked season. So I'd like to thank you for your time. With that, I'm going to turn the stage over to Mr. Matthew Cooper.
Thanks, sir. Hey, everyone. I'm Matthew. I'm the lead live designer on Heroes of the Storm. So as Alan and Travis talked about, we add a ton of new content to this game all the time, new heroes, battlegrounds, reworks. So really, the game is just always constantly evolving. Now, over the last several months, a bunch of the development team has been working on some core gameplay updates that we're calling the 2018 Gameplay Update. These are core changes to how you'll play in every single match. Now, if you watched opening ceremony, you have seen some hints of this with our camera changes, our updates to stealth, our laning changes. There's a lot to cover, so we're going to dive right in. Let's talk about the camera first. So overall, we feel that the camera can be a little bit claustrophobic in those larger scale team fights. When you get all 10 players fighting over a single objective, you can't always see all the players on the screen at a time. And now, over time, of course, too, we've added characters like Chromie, who has really long range, Genji, Medivh, who have really high mobility. And so in a lot of ways, the camera wasn't designed with these kind of characters in mind. So we wanted to evaluate our camera height, see if we could pull this out a little bit, provide our players with a better experience. This is something we've gotten feedback on from our community for quite a while now. So how much we pull out the camera is a bit of a balance between performance and visibility. Our goal is to improve visibility, right? We want to make it so you can better read and understand a team fight. But if we pull out the camera too much, we could hurt our game performance. At the same time, if we pull out the camera too much, we could also make visibility worse. So we want to make sure that we're getting a nice balance here and doing it the right amount. Now, I have a video that we're going to show that showcases the old camera and the new one. I'm going to set this video up a little bit, though. So you see there's going to be a small-scale team fight to start this. And then midway through, we're going to pause the video, and we'll pull out to the new camera perspective. I want you to focus on Stitches and kind of the upper left corner when we do that. So this is what the new camera looks like, and now you can see Chromie is actually even visible off to the side. Stitches can use that information, set up that hook for his team, get that kill. So overall, this new camera will let you better read team fights, better make better strategies as a result. All right, stealth heroes. So these are really popular characters. We get a lot of feedback on these from our community. And when we're looking at stealth heroes from a balance and a design perspective, there are some areas we want to improve. These are typically really powerful characters in quick match play. At the same time, they get a little bit weaker as we move up into higher level Hero League and competitive play. And then we rarely see some of these characters in esports. So coming from the balance team, we want to look at this and see, OK, are there balance adjustments? Are there design changes we can make to these characters to kind of maximize where we're seeing these characters across all of our game modes? Now, the more we looked at this, we realized that the stealth visual can be really hard to see. So here's a video. We have Jaina in the center. And what some of you might be able to see is there are several stealth heroes moving around just below Jaina right now on that cobblestone path. These are really challenging to see. It's hard to spot this. And ultimately, this ends up being an eye test. If you can spot these stealth heroes quickly, if you can communicate this information to your team effectively, maybe over voice chat, then the power that stealth brings is reduced. But for most players, they have to really focus on this, and it is that eye test. And so we wanted to reevaluate this and update our stealth visual, making it easier to see. So this is the new stealth visual. We have the old one on the left, the new one on the right. It's a lot easier to see. You can even clearly see the silhouette of the stealth characters. Now, if you're paying close attention, you might see that these stealth characters are actually disappearing when they stop moving. This is something that's not playable here at BlizzCon. It's something we're testing out at the office. We're playing with a system where if you're not moving while stealth, you'll actually go completely invisible. It's done some really cool things for us. It's brought back some of that mystery of not knowing where that stealth hero is without making it as much about an eye test. So on the design side, our goal with this stealth update is that we want stealth to be about a strategic advantage. Again, we're shifting away from that eye test. You're still going to be invisible while you move around the minimap. And even if an enemy hero spots you coming, they're still going to have to land a skill shot on you or do something like that to remove you out of stealth. They still can't target you with targeted abilities. Stealth heroes are really fun for a lot of players to play as. We want to make sure that they're fun for all 10 players in a match, including the players playing against them. Now, by updating these stealth visuals, we can re-look at our stealth heroes and kind of do some hero updates to each of the characters, give them some new tools and tricks to play with. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Nova. Now, we're just going to talk high-level details about some of the Nova changes. She's got a lot of talent updates overall, so I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details. Nova's going to start with a new active ability that she can use to immediately put herself back into stealth. While in stealth, Nova will move 15% faster. So this is either through the active or just passively through her trait. She's just going to move faster while stealthed. So these two changes are going to let you position a little bit more freely around the battlefield. And if you do get caught, you do have some opportunities now to try and get away. Another change we're doing with Nova is we're reducing her base snipe damage, but then giving her the Snipe Master talent baseline. So if you're consistently landing a lot of snipes, what this will mean is you can actually bring more total damage to a team fight through high accuracy. Now, if you want to learn more about the stealth changes, please come to the Hero Deep Dive panel tomorrow. It's on the same stage at 1 p.m. Alex Nyman, one of our live designers, will be going into more details about all of these changes, and he'll also be talking about Valera, Zeratul, and Samuro, who are also receiving updates. All right, moving on to lane updates. So why are we looking at laning? And the reason we're looking at laning is this is kind of the beginning part of a game, and this is a great opportunity for players to have some of those smaller scale 1v1 and 2v2 skirmishes. It gives you some opportunities to outplay your opponent, show off your individual skill. However, right now, our laning phase typically ends really quickly. When that first tribute on Cursed Hollow spawns, maybe a minute into the match, all players are kind of pulled out of the lane. On top of that, the laning phase doesn't carry a lot of weight throughout the game. The teamfight phase is still king, so even if you do outplay your opponent in lane, it doesn't necessarily translate to the rest of the match. So we wanted to kind of revisit our laning experience and see what updates we could do to make this more interesting. We looked at a lot of different things. First up, let's talk about ammunition on towers. So how tower ammunition works currently is essentially towers have a limited number of shots, and then after that, they regenerate ammunition extremely slowly. How this ends up playing out for the most part is players will quickly defeat the enemy minion wave, and then they can play safe. They can back off to their own tower, their own gate, and let their minion wave push into the enemy towers and drain ammunition. We see this commonly on battlegrounds where higher skill groups of players will roam around as a group of 4, and they'll quickly just bounce between multiple lanes, quickly defeating the minions and then moving on. And they're actually winning the lanes by doing that because they're draining the tower ammunition. So we wanted to revisit this and see, is there a change we could make so that we can encourage players to play a little bit more offensively, actually attack those towers? And we did a number of different tests, but what we're showing you guys here today is towers are going to have infinite ammunition. So basically, you can't drain tower ammunition anymore. What this is going to encourage players to do now is you're actually going to want to push off that minion wave because you're going to want to get meaningful tower damage done. We've done some balance updates as a result of this. So minions have a little bit more health, a little bit more damage. So if you push off your minion wave, they're going to be even more meaningful at dealing damage to that tower. So while we were looking at towers, tower ammunition, we also want to look at the different towers and fortifications and see how they're performing. Are there changes we want to make here? This is a typical fortification layout on Dragonshire. And when we were looking at all these different towers, we want to focus on this one in particular. We call these the standalone towers. These are at the back. And we found that these are actually not that meaningful for the most part. A lot of the time when they actually do come into play, when they actually start attacking, the other towers have already been destroyed. Maybe even the fort and keep have already been destroyed. And they can actually block defenders' movement. So if you're a defender trying to protect this location, enemies can really predict your movement a lot easier, land skill shots on you as you're trying to move through these locations. So we decided to cut these towers. If you've played our newest battleground, Volskaya Foundry, that battleground actually doesn't have these standalone towers on it. And we've been continuing to test this for a few months now. We're pretty happy with the change. So we wanted to keep a bunch of our balance relationships the same. So we've rolled a bunch of the stats from these standalone towers onto the other structures. Health, damage, experience. We want to keep relationships like Sky Temple consistent. Now, as we continued to test this a little bit further, we found there were a couple characters who actually relied on these standalone towers a little bit more than others. That's characters like Abathur and Murky. So they would use these areas to kind of protect themselves a little bit against maybe a character like Zeratul who was looking to dive them. So we wanted to revisit this, see if there's some other changes we could make. And instead of adding the standalone towers back, we're actually adding True Sight to our forts and keeps. So True Sight is a mechanic that currently exists on the core. And what it does is essentially it reveals any enemy stealth heroes who get within its attack range. So now your forts and keeps are also going to have True Sight. So with the addition of True Sight and unlimited tower ammunition, you should feel quite a bit safer when trying to defend one of these fortification locations. All right, regeneration globes. So this is a really kind of interesting part of the laning phase. We like a lot of things that regeneration globes do. They encourage you to think about your positioning, your enemy's positioning. You want to think about even how you fight the minion wave and make sure that you're getting these regeneration globes. So these things are doing a lot of good, awesome stuff for us, and we want to see if we could make some changes, get even more out of them. So currently, regeneration globes last for 6 seconds in an allied state, and then they time out. We tried a bunch of different changes, bunch of different iteration on this, and the one we're showing you guys here is instead, allied globes are going to last for 4 seconds, and then they will change into a neutral state for another 4 seconds. In this neutral state, either team can pick them up. So if you're winning your lane, if you're really thinking about your positioning relative to your enemies, you could potentially get twice as many globes now. So again, think about your positioning, think about how you're fighting those minion waves. So at the same time, we're doing all these to improve our laning phase. We also wanted to look at it from our battleground perspective and see if there are changes we can make here to also enhance that laning experience. So we dove into all of our different battlegrounds to see what we could find. And battlegrounds like Dragonshire, Braxis Holdout, or Tomb of the Spider Queen, we feel these battlegrounds really enhance that laning experience. Essentially, the battleground mechanic is part of the lane. So if you're on Dragonshire and you're the top lane and you're outplaying your opponent, you're actually also helping your team to secure that map event in the top, helping your team potentially get that Dragon Knight. Of course, we have a number of other battlegrounds that quickly pull you out of lane. So we have battlegrounds like Sky Temple, Cursed Hollow, Infernal Shrines, and essentially when the first tribute on Cursed Hollow spawns, that's kind of a call to action for all players to kind of leave the lane and go contest these objectives. We really like this experience. We don't want to change this too much. But we wanted to evaluate how quickly we're pulling players out of lanes through these battlegrounds. And so we're going to push back some of those battleground objectives a little bit to give you more time to fight over lane, showcase your individual skill. Now, there's some other changes we're making to the battlegrounds. As Alan mentioned, we're up to 14 battlegrounds now. That's a lot. And pretty much all of our different battlegrounds have a different set of rules, a different set of timers that we're asking our players to learn. Things like when the first map mechanic appears on the battleground, when does the next one appear, what's the delay in between. So we want to simplify that so players have to learn less rules. So we're going to have it so that there are essentially 2 rule sets you'll need to learn. Our early battlegrounds, the first map mechanic will spawn in at 1:30 seconds. And some of those later battlegrounds that we want to push back a little bit to give players more time in the lane, those are going to spawn in at 3 minutes. We also want to provide the information a little bit earlier on. So we're going to have consistent 30-second warnings across all these battlegrounds, so you'll have more time to reposition, change lanes. And in some cases, we actually want to push this a little bit further, and we might even show you, even before those 30-second warnings, show you where the next map mechanic will be. So on a battleground like Infernal Shrines, you might actually see where that next shrine is going to be well before that 30-second warning. This will allow players to think about when they should be taking a mercenary camp, which lane they should be pushing, what their strong lane should be, just provide players with more information. We still want to have variation on the battlegrounds. We don't want there to always be a set pattern that tributes spawn in on Cursed Hollow, for example. We want there to be some variation, but as long as we can provide that information early to players, they'll be able to better make strategies around that information. The goal with all of these changes is to not increase game length. So we have a lot of different tuning knobs to keep our game length right around 20 minutes, which we think is an awesome experience. Obviously, we could make changes to the strength of minions, increase the strength of our map mechanics. Overall, in internal testing, we haven't really noticed a difference in game length. But once you guys have a chance to play it and we can get a lot of data, we'll be able to make adjustments if needed here. So the last thing I want to talk about is our mercenary camps. So especially with us making a bunch of changes, making laning more interesting, we wanted to revisit the mercenaries and to see if there are changes we can make here to add more strategy to each individual camp. Currently, some of our mercenaries may be on, say, knights, for example. They kind of act as tower fodder. Their job is to push down a lane, soak up a bunch of tower ammunition. Well, with unlimited tower ammunition, we definitely wanted to revisit these, make sure they're providing some unique strategies. So for our knight camp, the Knight Wizard is going to emit a spell armor aura. So if you're pushing with your knight camp, all nearby allies, heroes, even other minions and mercenaries are actually going to have a bunch of spell armor. This will make it a lot harder to fight an enemy team who's pushing up their knights. So you're definitely going to want to capture these camps and push with them. Our Hellback camp is actually going to decrease enemy armor with every single basic attack, and this will stack a few times. So again, if you're fighting in a lane and the enemy has some Hellbats with them, you're going to have to be really careful about how you engage this lane. You're maybe going to want to take out those Hellbats early. For Siege Giants, we actually really liked how Siege Giants perform for the most part. They require a response from the enemy team, but we still wanted to look at them and see if there are changes or updates we could do to make Siege Giants better. Now, some of you might not know that you can actually dodge Siege Giant attacks in the lane. We just don't telegraph this very well. We don't do a good job of it. So we're going to better communicate this, make it more visually obvious that you can dodge their attacks, but we're going a step further than that. We're going to make it so you can actually dodge their attacks in the jungle as well while you're fighting these camps. So if you play really well, if you're moving around while you're taking the camp, you can actually take Siege Giants without taking any damage. We're looking at all of our mercenary camps. We want to make sure that they're all performing well across all stages of a game. So we have a few minutes left. I'm going to talk quickly about timeline, and then after that, we'll probably have about 5 or 6 minutes for questions. So we have a couple microphones. We're not going to be able to take a lot of questions today, but if you guys want to start lining up. Back in October, we had a community summit where we invited out quite a few different professional players, streamers, shoutcasters, and they came and checked out a lot of this content and gave us feedback on it so we can continue iterating. Of course, we're here at BlizzCon. Everything I just talked about is playable here. You guys can check it out. Let us know what you think. In November, near end of November, we'll be moving to an extended 3-week PTR that will roll into December as well. Everyone in our community will be able to play all of this on the PTR and let us know your feedback, let us know what you think. None of this is set in stone. We want to get your feedback. We want to make good changes. The goal is to launch all of this in December at the start of a new rank season. So this will give players the opportunity to play with all these changes for an entire rank season. And it will also fall in between our HGC Pro seasons so that the professionals will have a little bit more time to learn the changes before they start competing again next year. All right, that's everything we have for you guys today. Thank you. Good job.
You got a question over there?
Yeah. My question is, are you considering moving DuoQ back to Hero League? In that DuoQ is currently in Team League with 2s and 3s, but is it ever possible for Duo League to be back with solo queue?
So we're not currently. Ever is a really long time. We're always looking to evaluate these things. But right now, we like the solo queue for Hero League, and our efforts are on making Team League a better experience overall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Great.
So I've asked a different question the last 4 years. I usually ask about unique death animations for certain characters, but this year I'm going to ask you another question. Hypothetically, if McCree were to join Heroes of the Storm, would you remove his cigar? And if you don't, will you give Tychus back his cigar?
Can we give Tychus McCree's cigar?
Yes, exactly. We will give Tychus McCree's cigar.
All right, thank you.
Hi, I play on a 4K monitor. You guys created some amazing emoji, and I get them in loot boxes all the time, and I can't see them at all because they come out as tiny little specks on the 4K screen. Is it possible to get text scaling added to the chat window?
Yeah, it's a known issue and something we'd like to correct.
Thank you.
I had a question that with the game getting as big as it is, and with the introduction of voice chat in 2018, if you guys are planning on anything to promote positivity within the community, say personal commendations beyond just an MVP screen where you just click and upvote and then get out of the game.
Yeah, it's something that we've been pursuing for a little while now. We're exploring different ways of doing that. We did add the MVP screen where you can upvote people, but I agree that there's probably more opportunities where we can make a more meaningful system to really call out those players that did an awesome job in the game or promoting good, fun, experiences within the game. So it's something we're looking at. We don't have anything specific right now, but absolutely, we think it would be a cool addition to the game.
Thank you.
Hey guys, good to see you again. I had a question concerning interactive environment effects like the conveyor belt in Foundry. As a Chromie main who likes to run triple time trap, you can imagine how excited I was when I started lining them up and they're just freezing people all around. Is that a feature you guys are thinking of expanding in new maps as far as passive map events that aren't tied to the game objectives?
I'll say, so we have a Battleground team that's always looking to push the boundaries within our Battleground experience, and John DeShazer, our lead Battleground designer, I think has been wanting to add conveyor belts for quite some time now, and it just happened to make a lot of sense on Volskaya Foundry. So I'm sure those guys are also looking for new ways and new opportunities to promote awesome Battleground design.
Cool, thank you.
I'll just add that we're always trying out new things. We always want to try crazy ideas and see where it goes, so we'll see what happens.
Hi. In regards to your removing of the towers, have you also considered about the repositioning of the healing fountains so that they're not exposed?
The Battleground team has been looking at the layout of the different structures, and they have made some changes. I don't know if they've totally updated all of the healing well locations, but that is feedback we've heard before of players who specifically go into snipe healing fountains early on in a match. It's not something we see commonly, so it's not a huge concern for us, and there is some gameplay there for both players, but it is something we can continue doing as well going forward.
Thank you.
Hi guys, love your game. I just had a question about quick match team comps, where sometimes you get like an actual team comp, 1 tank, 3 damage, 1 healer, and sometimes, like me, you get 3 tanks, 1 damage, 1 healer. So I was just wondering if there was any plans to address team comp, quick match team comps, like how you have Dungeon Finder and WoW. So do you have any comments about that?
Do I take it or should I?
You want me to?
Yeah. So the quick match is an interesting beast for us. It's meant to be a little bit of the Wild West, and the big things that are important to us for quick match is that players can play the hero they want and that we can make games for them quickly. And that kind of runs contrary to being able to put together the perfect teams all the time. In fact, we run models to try to make games that are all meta. For instance, every game has a tank and a support in them, and the queue times explode and they go really long. So we're trying to find a good balance there all the time between games that are entertaining, but we're okay with surprises as well. So we are continually tweaking them. We've made some updates in the last year, and I expect we'll be making more over the next few months too.
Yeah, actually, if you've watched our quick match meta rules, we've been continually kind of tweaking them as time has gone on. I think it's good feedback. It's feedback that we receive regularly, so something we'll look at. But absolutely, quick match is a place for you to kind of jump in with the hero you want to play. And if you do truly want like that perfect team comp, I'd suggest unranked draft or even ranked modes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
That was the last question.
Okay. It has been said. Thank you guys very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
seeing you all.